I moved to this small coastal town last summer, looking for inspiration for my photography. The weathered houses and lonely beach should have been perfect. At dawn, I walked along the shore, hoping to shake off my creative block. But instead of vibrant colors, I felt stuck. That summer still haunts me. One evening, I decided to try a new app called Randonautica. I thought it could lead me to something interesting. The app picked a spot near the beach, away from the light. I hesitated at first but felt drawn. The air was thick around me, making my heart race as I walked toward the darkness. I noticed odd flickering lights in the distance. They flickered between blue and green. Maybe this could be the spark I needed for my photos. I moved closer, and a chill settled in my bones. I came back to that spot in the following days. Each time, the lights appeared again, brighter and more erratic. I felt excitement mixed with unease. Mrs. Alden, my neighbor, hadn't been around. She used to wave at me from her window. Now, her house felt empty. I tried to shake off the worry but found myself glancing out after dark, hoping to see her. My heart raced as I followed the lights more often. Each time, they pulsed as if they knew I was there. One night, I stood there for hours. The glow lit the sand and cast long shadows around me. I caught a glimpse of something tall on the boardwalk. I turned, but nothing was there. I shook my head. Maybe it was just my imagination. The next week, I overheard neighbors talking. Mrs. Alden had vanished. Just gone. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Nobody seemed concerned. It felt strange. I wanted to say something, but I kept quiet. I peered out my window, hoping to see her. But there was just darkness outside and those flickering lights ingrained in my mind. That night, I stood there again, catching the light's glow. I thought I saw her form reaching for me, but when I blinked, it was gone. Anxiety crawled up my spine. I wanted to turn away for good. But the lights called me back. Maybe there was something to find. I decided that night would be the last. Just as I turned to leave, the air became heavy. It pressed down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. The lights flickered faster, almost angrily. Then, silence. I felt a pull, a voice in my head saying, "Stay a little longer." I shook my head, but it was too late. Then, I heard it. A soft, urgent voice. "Help me." I spun around, but there was nobody there. I felt frozen, fear wrapping around me. Maybe everything was wrong. I shouldn't have opened that app. But the lights kept flickering, and I could not resist them. What had I stumbled into that summer? The next evening, I couldn't shake off what had happened. The urgency in that voice echoed in my mind. Help me. It felt like a plea I couldn't ignore. Against my better judgment, I grabbed my camera and headed back to the beach. The lights awaited. It was twilight when I arrived. The beach was empty, swallowed by shadows. The flickering lights appeared almost immediately, radiant and compelling. I set my camera on the tripod and focused, hoping the scene would grant me clarity, not just creative inspiration. I snapped a few shots, my breath catching as the glow twisted in a dance. Yet the more I photographed, the stronger the unease became. Then I saw movement, a figure emerging where the lights breached the darkness. My heart raced. It was tall, cloaked in shadows, but not entirely there. I squinted, trying to make sense of the shifting shapes. Was it Mrs. Alden? How could it be? Help me. This time, it was clearer. I felt it in my bones. I couldn't just let this go. I stepped off the path, feeling the cold sand beneath my feet. Each step toward the flicker of lights felt heavy, like wading through molasses. Suddenly, the figure dissolved into the darkness, just as quickly as it had come. I hesitated, feeling foolish for chasing something I couldn't understand. But I needed to stay curious, despite the rising panic. I felt compelled to look for the source of the voice. There was a small outcropping of rocks at the edge of the beach, partially submerged in the tide. I approached it cautiously, the lights illuminating the jagged edges. As I got closer, I noticed something glimmering between the stones. My heart raced again, but this time, not from fear. I felt drawn to the shimmer. I knelt down, my fingers brushing against something cold and hard. That's when I saw it. A bracelet, encrusted with dark stones. It looked old, almost antique. I lifted it closer, searching for any identifying marks. In the fading light, I made out an inscription, "For my love, always." The moment I held it tightly in my palm, the lights flashed violently, casting eerie shadows onto my face. I jumped back, startled. The air grew colder, and a low hum filled the space around me. The voice echoed again, this time softer but urgent, "Return it." "Return what?" I shouted into the void, but the only response was the relentless flickering of lights. Fear washed over me as I scrambled back to my feet. I glanced around, feeling intensely exposed. Something was wrong, very wrong. I needed to leave. As I stumbled back, I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching me from the shadows. When I finally reached the pathway, I turned to look back one last time. The glow had faded, but the echo of the voice lingered. I couldn't resist the growing sense of dread. What was happening here? I raced home, the bracelet clutched tightly in my hand. Questions filled my mind. Was this connection to Mrs. Alden? Had I awakened something by coming to this beach? I felt the weight of the unknown pressing down. Whatever I'd discovered, I knew it was only the beginning. And I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't done yet. The next morning, I woke with a knot in my stomach. The bracelet was sitting on my nightstand, its dark stones glinting as sunlight spilled into my room. I didn't dare touch it. My mind was racing, piecing together the fragments of last night. I had to know more about that voice, about what I had stumbled upon. I decided to pay Mrs. Alden another visit. Perhaps she could shed some light on what I'd experienced. She hadn't been home the last time I knocked, but I felt that, out of everyone in the neighborhood, she had the most knowledge about the beach and its secrets. I dressed quickly and headed over to her house. As I walked, I could still feel the coldness of the beach air clinging to my skin. My heart pounded in anticipation and dread. The world felt heavy today, like it was keeping secrets I wasn't meant to uncover. Reaching her front porch, I knocked. After a few moments, she appeared at the door. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked surprised to see me. "Oh. You're back," she exclaimed, eyes widening as she stepped aside to let me in. "I need to ask you something," I said, holding my breath. "It's about the lights at the beach." Mrs. Alden's expression shifted. She glanced out the window as though expecting something. "The lights? No one should be near those," someone called out to me, I interrupted. "I think it might be linked to this." I pulled the bracelet from my pocket, the words "for my love," always staring back at me. Her face paled, and she quickly took a step back, as if burned by the sight of it. "Where did you find that?" "By the rocks," I began, but she cut me off. "I told you to stay away, didn't I?" Her voice trembled. "That beach has a history. Do you realize what you're messing with?" I felt anger boil in my chest. "Do you know who it belongs to? Who was calling out to me?" She hesitated, fingers trembling as she clutched her arm. "It belonged to a woman named Clara. She vanished near those rocks years ago. No one ever found her." A chill wrapped around my heart. "I was told to return it. To the beach." Mrs. Alden shook her head. "You can't go back there. It's dangerous. Clara's spirit hasn't found peace, and disturbing her might wake something worse. I can't just ignore it." She needs help. I shouted, feeling the weight of the bracelet pressing into my palm. Suddenly, I thought I heard a whisper behind me. In the flurry of emotions, I turned, but the room was empty. Just me, Mrs. Alden, and a growing tension in the air. "Please, just listen," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "Don't go back to the beach. There are things that should stay buried. It could cost you everything." But the words hung in the air, and something deep inside me thrived on the challenge. I couldn't let it end this way. As I stepped back towards the door, I felt like I was being pulled in two directions. The urge to uncover the truth and the warning that echoed louder with each heartbeat. I glanced back at Mrs. Alden one last time before I stepped outside. The feeling of eyes upon me was back, stronger now, as if someone or something was waiting for my next move. I couldn't help but wonder if returning the bracelet would mean confronting Clara's tragic fate, or triggering something far worse. I walked away from Mrs. Alden's house feeling more determined and confused than ever. The bracelet felt heavy in my pocket, like a stone pulling me toward the ocean. As I made my way back to the beach, I kept replaying her words in my head. Clara's fate hung over me like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash something I wasn't ready to face. The beach stretched before me, its vastness swallowing the sound of the world around. Waves crashed against the shore, and the salty air stung my face. I could see the rocks where I found the bracelet, jutting out into the water like dark fingers reaching for the sky. A sense of foreboding washed over me, but the urge to discover the truth was stronger. I took a deep breath and stepped onto the sand, feeling it cool against my bare feet. The sound of the waves created a rhythm that echoed the beating of my heart. I was completely alone, but that didn't reassure me. I felt as if I was being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled, and I scanned the area for any signs of life. As I approached the rocks, the air shifted, and the whispering began again. It was faint, but it beckoned to me. "Help me!" The voice sounded so much like the one I had heard the night before. My heart raced, but I forced myself forward, curiosity battling my fear. I reached the rocks and squatted down, peering into the crevices where I had found the bracelet. The sunlight glinted off something hidden beneath a layer of sand. I brushed it away, revealing a small, rusted locket. Intrigued, I opened it carefully. Inside was a faded photo of a woman. Her eyes laughed back at me, and a chill rolled through my body. It was Clara. Suddenly, I felt a gust of wind whip through the air, and the voice came again, more insistent this time. "Return it, to the depths." My heart pounded as the words washed over me. The ocean seemed to respond, waves crashing harder against the rocks as if alive with energy. I looked toward the water, unsure of what to do. Mrs. Alden had warned me about awakening Clara's spirit, but this felt different. The locket was a part of her, just like the bracelet. I knew I had to return both to the sea, to wherever she had been lost. But as I turned to the waves, my heart sank. The sky darkened, and a heavy fog began creeping in from the ocean, swirling around me. The whispers intensified, filling my head until I felt dizzy. "Help us." With the locket in one hand and the bracelet in the other, I felt something tugging at me from behind. I spun around, half expecting to see Mrs. Alden, but instead, the fog thickened, swirling together to form a shadowy figure. Its outline seemed to flicker as if it couldn't hold its form. I froze, heart racing. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. The figure reached out, and the temperature dropped. Everything inside me screamed to run, but I stood my ground. I felt the presence push against me, and then I saw a fleeting glimpse of a woman's face, desperate and distorted, caught in the fog. "Return what is mine," it implored. I stumbled backward, barely keeping my footing on the slippery rocks. There was no way I could run, I had to decide. Do I throw the locket and bracelet back into the sea as she asked, or do I flee this cursed place? With the fog swirling all around me and Clara's voice piercing my thoughts, I was about to make my choice when the figure seemed to dissolve, leaving only the echo of her plea lingering in the air. Return what is mine. In that moment, I realized that my choice could unleash something much deeper than just Clara's tragic fate. I had to act, and fast. I clutched the locket and bracelet tightly, feeling the cold metal bite into my palms. The fog rolled in thicker, and the sound of crashing waves grew fainter, swallowed by the heavy mist surrounding me. I instinctively stepped back from the edge of the rocks, my heart racing faster with each breath. The remnants of the woman's presence still lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of what was at stake. Return what is mine, I whispered to myself, thinking of Clara. I had to find the courage to act. I took a deep breath and raised the locket, debating whether to toss it into the water. The bracelet felt almost sentient, trying to pull me toward the ocean. Did I dare awaken whatever stirred beneath the surface? Before I could make a decision, a shimmer caught my eye. Panic surged through me as I scanned the foggy expanse. There, near the waterline, I saw a flicker of light. It pulsed with a strange energy, like a beacon in the dark fog. My curiosity overwhelmed my fear. I stepped closer to investigate, the soft sand shifting under my feet. As I neared the edge, the light danced like a flame, pulling me in. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting the shadowy figure to reappear, but the fog remained still. I was alone at least for now. The glow intensified, and I could see now that it came from something half buried in the sand. With trembling hands, I pushed the sand away, exposing a smooth, dark stone. Embedded in its center was a sparkling gem that glowed with an otherworldly light, illuminating my face in its eerie glow. I could have sworn it whispered in a voice that echoed my own fears, "Help us." My instincts told me to leave it, to run back up the beach, but the weight of the locket and bracelet felt like they were anchored to my soul. I turned, calling out into the fog, "Clara. Is this you?" My voice trembled, but the silence that followed felt heavier. I picked up the stone and held it next to the locket. They didn't seem to belong together, yet a sense of connection buzzed between them. Just then, the ocean shimmered, and the whispers began again, clearer now, a chorus of desperate voices rising above the roar of the waves. Return it. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled, sending vibrations up through my legs. I staggered back, and that's when I saw it, a dark shape beneath the water, breaking through the surface. It was unreal, moving with a fluid grace that made it hard to focus. I squinted, trying to make sense of the sight. The icy clash of intuition and terror spread through me. I had a choice to make, and the weight of Clara's fate pressed down on me like a boulder. Should I offer the stone to the depths as the voices begged, or run and leave whatever mystery lay beneath unchallenged? Before I could decide, the figure surged upward, and fear clawed at my throat. Then everything went dark as the fog enveloped me completely. I could only hear the whispers growing louder, demanding my attention, pulling me closer to the water. Then I felt the stone pulsing in my hand, vibrating with an energy that felt alive. There was no turning back now. I had to find out what this meant. I felt a jolt of clarity break through the fog as the stone pulsed harder in my hand. The whispers began to swirl around me, a chaotic melody that both frightened and captivated me. My breath hitched as I realized I was drawn toward the water, as if some invisible thread connected me to the depths below. Without thinking, I took a step closer to the edge, the mist swirling like a living thing. A loud crash of waves broke against the rocks behind me, but I didn't turn. The dark shape in the water came into view again, gliding with an eerie elegance. It loomed larger, more menacing, revealing shimmering scales that reflected the dim light. "Who are you?" I found myself asking, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart raced as I awaited an answer, one I doubted would come. Yet the whispers grew quieter, as if anticipating something. I glanced at the stone, searching for answers within its glowing depths. The gem sparkled like it had a secret to share. Before I could think it through, I raised the stone above the water's surface, my instincts kicking in again. Is this what you want? I called out, my voice trembling, unsure if I was speaking to the shape in the water or the voices in my head. As if in response, the water shifted beneath the surface. I could see it clear now, the creature revealing itself fully, an otherworldly figure with the features of a woman framed by cascading seaweed. Her eyes were hauntingly familiar, and for a moment, I thought I saw Clara staring back at me. I staggered back, my heart pounding. This could not be happening. Clara? I shouted, panic flooding my voice. But all I got in return was the low rumble of the ocean. The creature tilted its head, almost as if it were studying me. The whispers grew urgent again, echoing return it, return it. I looked down at the locket, then at the stone. They both felt intertwined in a way I couldn't understand. Suddenly, the waves surged higher, crashing against my ankles. I felt the cold water slice through the fog as it wrapped around my legs. There was no escaping it now. I had to decide. In one frantic motion, I hurled the stone into the depths, my heart racing with fear and hope. The moment it touched the water, everything changed. The glowing gem burst into a brilliant light before fading into a deep blue hue, and the dark shape lunged forward, swallowed by the sudden whirlpool that formed around it. The whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, drowning out my screams. I fell back, slipping on the wet sand as I scrambled away from the chaos brewing before me. Just then, the fog parted, unveiling a clear stretch of beach behind me. Sunlight broke through, illuminating the scene in stark contrast. I looked again to the sea, and the surreal figure had vanished. But it wasn't over. As the energy in the air shifted, a new sensation washed over me, one of urgency and dread. I stumbled back onto dry ground, panting. I knew I had stirred something deeper, something still lurking just beneath the surface. And just like that, I understood, the locket, the stone, and Clara's fate were all tangled together, and I had only scratched the surface of this mystery. I needed answers, and I had to get to Clara before it was too late. The threat was far from gone, and I had a feeling I was just beginning to uncover the truth. I stumbled to my feet, dread settling heavily on my chest. Whatever I had awakened in those waters wasn't going to let me walk away so easily. I didn't have time to linger on the beach, I needed to find Clara and understand how everything tied together. As I made my way back to the path through the trees, my mind raced. The stone, the locket, and that creature, it was all connected. But how? I pushed through the underbrush, determined not to let fear paralyze me. I had to reach Clara, and the only way to do that was to return to the places we had visited last summer. The sun hung low in the sky as I retraced my steps, each footfall echoing my growing anxiety. The vivid memories of our day adventures, the laughter, the spontaneous stops felt like a lifetime ago. My phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me from my thoughts. With trembling hands, I fished it out. No signal. It was barely a surprise, some spots in this area were dead zones. I found myself at the old park near the edge of town. Clara and I used to joke about how it felt like stepping into another world. The playground was empty now, shadows creeping in as the sun dipped lower. I scanned the area, hoping to feel something familiar, maybe a connection to her. Then, a flash of movement caught my eye. I turned, and just for a second, I thought I saw a familiar silhouette dart past the trees. My heart raced. Clara! I shouted, but only silence responded. It had to be my imagination, but there was something unsettling in the air, a whispering chill that rolled through the leaves. As I walked deeper into the park, my feet suddenly stopped. On the old picnic table sat the very locket I had thrown away. It gleamed in the falling light, almost mocking me. I approached slowly, my heart pounding loud in my ears. How could it be here? I had thrown it into the sea. I reached for it, but before my fingers made contact, an icy wind swept through the trees, rattling branches and sending a shiver down my spine. The whispers returned, louder than before, as if they were chanting my name. Return it. return it. Echoed around me, haunting and frantic. A sharp pain stabbed at my head, and I staggered back, trying to push through the feedback of noise and confusion. And that's when I saw it, a woman's figure standing at the edge of the shadows, with hair that danced like liquid silver in the fading light. My breath caught. "Clara?" I called out, my voice trembling. But she didn't respond, just stared at me. I could feel a pull, like we were tied by a thread spun from fear and longing. Did she want me to follow her? Just then, I heard a low growl, like distant thunder rolling in, rippling through the air. It shattered the moment, freezing my heart. There was something else lurking in the dark, something that had come alive with my discovery. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I was torn. Then the ground began to shake beneath my feet. "No!" I shouted, panic surging through me as I took a step back. The figure flickered, and my world tilted. I had to get to her. But was this Clara or something far more sinister? I felt trapped in a labyrinth of shadows. The path back was gone. With darkness gathering around me, I faced the growing threat, knowing I had to make a choice. The night was just beginning, and whatever was coming wasn't finished with me yet. The rumble of the earth shook me from my thoughts, and instinct kicked in. I couldn't stand there, caught between the familiar and the unknown. I took a shaky breath and decided to move. My legs urged me forward, but I couldn't shake the image of Clara lingering in my mind. That glimmer of hope was tangled with fear. I darted towards the trees, trying to keep my breath steady. Just as I reached the tree line, the ground heaved again, and I stumbled to the side. The growl echoed closer now, resonating with deep, primal fear. "Clara!" I cried out again, hoping that somehow she could hear me. The shadows within the trees twisted, morphing and shifting. I squinted, trying to pierce through the darkness. My heart raced, not just from the fear of whatever was pursuing me but from the need to find her. I pressed deeper into the underbrush, seeking the path we had once walked together. Then I spotted flickering lights ahead. My heart soared momentarily at the sight, but confusion quickly set in. The lights danced erratically, illuminating strange shapes in the woods. They reminded me of fireflies but felt wrong. They followed a pattern, almost like they were leading me. "Is that you, Clara?" I whispered, my voice trembling. I moved closer, hypnotized by the glow. But with each step I took, the whispers grew louder. "Follow, follow." They urged me, and I shivered. Was this a trap? Or was it her calling? Suddenly, the lights blinked out, plunging me into darkness. I stopped cold, fear gripping me tight. The growl returned, deeper and angrier, echoing around me like thunder rolling through a storm. Panic surged. I turned to run back but slipped, falling hard. As I hit the ground, my fingers brushed against something cold and smooth. It was the stone from the water. Panic flared, this couldn't just be a coincidence. I picked it up, and a sudden wave of energy enveloped me, almost like a pulse, vibrating through my veins. The voice from before whispered urgently, "Return it, before she is lost." A sharp pain shot through my head again, clearer now, as visions flashed. Clara's face, terrified, crying for help. An image of murky water surrounded her. I seized my breath, choking on the rush of realization. Was she trapped beneath the waves I had thought I'd escaped from? Then the shadow loomed over me, something massive and sinister, and I scrambled to my feet. I had to move. I had to help her. "Clara!" I shouted again, desperation coloring my voice. "Where are you?" A sudden, blinding light erupted from the darkness, forcing me to shield my eyes. A figure stood there, a silhouette against the brightness, but this time I couldn't discern anything. The growls now had turned into piercing cries, and I couldn't tell where they were coming from. In the chaos, I felt the earth rumbling beneath me again, like it was alive and demanding an answer. I had to decide: follow the light and face whatever lurked behind it, or stay and confront the dark growl that promised to swallow me whole. Time was running out, but I couldn't ignore Clara. With a heavy heart and shaky resolve, I took a step toward the blinding light, praying I wasn't making a terrible mistake. The weight of the unseen world pressed against me as I ventured deeper into the unknown. The light intensified as I drew closer, its warmth contrasting sharply with the chill that hung in the air. I squinted through the brightness, searching for any sign of what lay ahead. Fear twisted in my stomach, each pulse urging me to turn back. But Clara's face haunted me, her desperate eyes demanding I keep moving. "Clara!" I shouted, my voice bouncing back at me, swallowed by the forest. The silhouette shifted, and I took a cautious step forward, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The figure morphed, flickering like the lights that had led me here. It looked almost human, but the features remained blurred, like trying to remember a dream. Then everything snapped into focus. The figure was gone. I was alone again, surrounded by darkness. The growling noise dropped into a low rumble, vibrating beneath my feet. It sounded frustrated, as if the forest itself resented me for disturbing its silence. Panic clawed at me. I fumbled for the stone in my pocket, its cool surface grounding me. What was I supposed to do with it? The voice had hinted at a task, something that could lead me to Clara, but I felt lost in the chaos of the moment. I had to get her out of this nightmare. That's when I noticed something beneath the trees. A faint shimmer lay on the ground, glistening like the lights I had seen moments before. With renewed determination, I approached. As I brushed aside the fallen leaves, a strange object came into view. It was a locket, its surface glowing softly under the moonlight. I recognized it immediately. "Clara!" I gasped, trembling. This was hers. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside were two photos, one of her smiling, the other of the two of us together during a happier time. But beneath the photos, there was an inscription: "Find me where the water meets the sky." My breath hitched. The vision of her trapped beneath the murky water returned, and I realized she was calling for help from a place I hadn't understood. It was a clue. But where could it lead? I thought back to the spot where the river curved, the place where she often sought solace. It had to be connected. Then the growl returned, deeper and more insistent this time, shaking the ground beneath me. The trees trembled as the shadows elongated, dark figures swirling in the corners of my vision. I was being watched. With the locket clutched in my hand, I sprinted back toward the river, desperate to reach Clara before time ran out. Each step felt heavier as the growls turned into frenzied howls, echoing all around me. Something ancient and angry was following. I burst into a clearing, the moonlight bathing the water in silver. It was still, eerily calm. The reflection shimmered like a portal, and I could hear her voice faintly calling my name. "Clara!" I shouted again, my voice trembling with urgency. "I'm coming." Then, from the depths of the water, I saw it, a shadow rising, monstrous and vast. My heart sank. Whatever Clara was facing, it wasn't just the darkness of the forest, it was something far more sinister. I needed to make my move before it was too late. "Clara!" I cried again, dread clawing at me. "Hold on." But as I stepped forward, I realized that something was pulling me in. I had crossed a line, and now there was no turning back. The water was alive, and it wanted me, too. I staggered back, heart racing, the weight of the locket pressing heavily in my palm. The water shimmered ominously, as if it breathed, beckoning me but also warning me of the danger below. Clara's voice continued to call, distorted by the murmur of the waves, "Help me." I couldn't let fear paralyze me any longer. The shadows behind me twisted, turning angry and dark, growing less ephemeral and more menacing. I had to act, but my options felt painfully limited. I clutched the locket tightly. "Clara! Where are you?" A soft wind began to swirl around me, carrying her voice, fading and growing. Where the water meets the sky with certainty, I knew I needed to return something to her, to the depths. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the edge, gripping the locket. The growls from behind grew deafening, intertwining with Clara's voice. The dark shape began to rise from the water again, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. "Clara!" I shouted desperately, feeling the rush of the tide pulling at my ankles. I could see more clearly now, a swirling mass under the surface, tangling with shadows. For a moment, I thought I saw a semblance of her form fighting against it. "You're not alone." In an impulsive motion born from fear and determination, I hurled the locket into the water. It dove through the surface, creating a ripple that broke the dark facade momentarily, revealing a flash of light beneath. "Return to me," the voice echoed, softer now, a plea laced with urgency. Suddenly, the water surged violently, disrupting the calm. It felt as though the river was alive and seething, enraged by my actions. I felt the pull of the tide now stronger than ever, grasping at my legs like icy fingers. The chaos erupted, and with it, the shadow loomed closer. It elongated across the water like a monstrous serpent. Then it happened. A beam of light burst forth from the depths where the locket had splashed, illuminating the surface in a radiant glow. I squinted against the brilliance, and for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed Clara. She looked ethereal, her hair dancing like the seaweed around her. "Help me!" Her voice cried once more, as the brilliance flickered. "No!" I screamed, feeling my heart lurch. I had to do something to aid her before it slipped away forever. Summoning every shred of courage, I stepped forward into the chilling water, submerging my feet completely. It felt both wrong and liberating, the cold embracing me like an old friend. "Clara, I'm not leaving you," I shouted, my voice shaking but resolute. The shadows twisted in response, swirling violently. The silhouette in the water shimmered, morphing in and out of focus. The monster roared, sending shivers through my bones, the air crackling with magic and dread. I focused on the glow, wanting to will Clara back to me, to push through whatever barrier was keeping her trapped. "Don't worry. I'm here." I closed my eyes, envisioning our moments together, all the laughter and joy as I felt the water swallow me. The moment I opened my eyes, I found myself submerged. I gasped, and the chaotic swell of emotions surged. Light flickered all around, shapes and shades eclipsing my vision. I realized I held something strong in my grasp, the stone. Energy pulsed through my fingers. "Clara!" I screamed underwater. The echoes reverberated around me, amplifying my fear, causing bubbles to rush past me as I pushed through the abyss. Ahead, a glittering form began to materialize, the creature, more defined now, with a face that was both beautiful and haunting. Clara's eyes sparkled with recognition through the chaos, but something was wrong. She was bound, caught in shifting shadows, strands of darkness wrapped around her. "Help me!" She cried again, but this time desperation tinged her voice. "I'm going to get you out." My determination flooded through me as I held the stone aloft, feeling its warmth surge in response. The shadows recoiled, growling, hissing as I stepped closer. Then, I plunged the stone into the depths of the dark mass binding her. "Release her!" I shouted, and an explosion of light erupted from the stone, filling the void with a radiant glow. The darkness wavered, shrinking back. "Clara!" I watched as her figure became more solid, the chains of shadow unraveling. "You have to come with me. Grab my hand." With all of my strength, I reached out. Another moment began to feel like an eternity, but then I felt her hand grasp mine. The moment her warmth met my skin, everything shifted. The light around us pulsed in an overwhelming surge of energy, casting the darkness into abysmal corners. With a sudden force, we broke through the surface of the water, gasping for breath as the shadows shrieked. We collapsed onto the riverbank, tangled together as the night fell around us. And just as that final flicker faded into the depths, the rumbling growl dissipated into silence. I looked at Clara, her eyes wide with relief and gratitude, but as I caught my breath, something remained unsettling in the air. The joy of our reunion mingled with uncertainty. What about the shadows? I asked, scanning the water where darkness still lingered at the edge. The water rippled in response, as if the answer lay just below the surface. Clara's gaze followed mine, fear dancing in her eyes. It's not over, is it? They're still here. I nodded slowly. I didn't know how or when, but the lingering feeling remained. It wasn't just Clara's fate that had intertwined with some otherworldly call, it felt far from resolved. As the last remnants of light swallowed the horizon, I saw something lurking beneath another shape, flickering darkly in the depths. I held Clara close, the warmth of her presence grounding me, but the echoes of the unknown still hummed in my veins. We're not done yet, I whispered, feeling the weight of both our discoveries pressing upon us. As I stared into the abyss, I realized whatever force had drawn me into that haunting summer was far from finished. The night loomed ominously before me, and the questions I had once buried deep within were now jolted awake. With newfound resolve and Clara by my side, I knew we had to uncover the truth behind what swirled in the shadows, even if it came with unimaginable risks. The answers lay waiting, buried in the darkness. I had no certainty of what we'd face next, but one thing was clear, our stories were far from over. It was just the beginning.